engage with the youths. 65% of the population of Africa is less than 25 years old. So I think that is a huge number of a segment of the population that must be engaged in a very deliberate way. That is why, as I said last week or the week before that, we will be launching and engage a campaign with the youths so that we bring them in. So those are all components and facets of population behavior that I was referring to.
James Acharya Chege of Reuters in Johannesburg has come back with another question. He says, and this one is very specific to Nigeria. He says, would you know whether Nigeria has used all of its short shelf life vaccines, and if there are any left, if there are any that have expired lately? Then he goes on to say, also, how many jabs have they administered daily? And he notes that the country needs more than 200,000 daily to meet their targeted point of 80 million vaccinated by the end of this year.
No, I would not be able to know the details about the specifics of the vaccination in Nigeria. I think that is, I believe Nigeria do conduct a media conference briefing. That is people like Pfizer, who has been on this platform, should contact him to get that kind of amount of details.
All right, thank you very much. We don't have questions coming through, but just in case, all right, I see that Paul's hand is still up. Paul, do you have a second follow-up question?
Oh, yes. Thank you for this opportunity again. So I want to ask Dr. John that the 70% goal for vaccination for African countries, do you still consider it as relevant? More problems that are considered to be more severe than COVID. So I want to know whether you still consider these 70% goal to be relevant for every country, including those that are still dealing with malaria, tuberculosis, waterborne disease, and other. I want to understand. Then another question that I want to ask has to do with extending something that you mentioned last week regarding how capabilities to respond to HIV has been critical in the fight against COVID. So I want to know what capacities that COVID has, that African countries have acquired during the COVID pandemic that are specifically, uniquely well positioned to help the continent in fighting future pandemics. Thank you.
Excellent questions, Paul. The 70%, I think this, I really want to leave all of us with this, that the virus is still here. So we may see low transmission seasons and we may be seeing low death rates, but the virus is here. The only way that you get rid of this virus, which should be our ultimate goal, would be to eradicate this virus, is to get the vaccinated up to about 70%. What the analogy of not doing that is like you have a burning bush, and you put up the fire to an extent, then you say, okay, well, I've put up majority of the fire, still have just this little pockets of fire there. That little fire there may become a wildfire very, very soon. I think that is what we are dealing with here. So I think we should continue to strive to get to 70%. It is not either or. It's not like we should deviate resources to only get the vaccination to 70% and neglect HIV, TB, and malaria. We should be tackling these diseases simultaneously. Those are the challenges of our time, and the challenges of our time must be dealt. Each generation have their own challenges to deal with, and we cannot walk away from the challenges of our time. I think that is very, very clear. It's been obvious to us, to all of us as a global community, that we have to fight this fight, and we live in an age of pandemic. And I think that is, it's also true with Ebola. During this pandemic, over the last 2 years, we've been able to fight Ebola in DRC and in Guinea. So one pandemic doesn't finish before you get another outbreak there. So the short answer to your question, Paul, is that yes, we still have to continue to push to at least 70%. so that we truly try to get rid of this virus once and for all. And the right epidemiological terms would be that you eliminate the virus completely. And if we vaccinate at scale, or we vaccinate to the level that it will become an outbreak occasionally or every season, and then we can use vaccines to get rid of it. Africa, your second question is so pertinent. The continent has been extremely innovative in developing platforms that are continuously being used to fight this COVID pandemic, but will serve if we focus our energy and develop them further to fight other diseases. What are those? We have the African Medicine Supply Platform, which you can Google that and see that the amsp.africa. That's a platform that was set up to fight COVID and can be expanded now to fight other diseases in terms of commodities and supply chain management. It was perhaps one of the first innovations and one of the very top innovations that we must always recognize. The AVAT platform, the African Vaccine Acquisition Platform, many countries are into vaccine manufacturing now, but you need a pool mechanism, or a mechanism that can allow these countries to at least distribute the vaccine or sell the vaccines. Because vaccines are not like drugs where you can produce it in country X and just put it in the shelf. So you need a pool mechanism like AVAT to do that. We have the pathogen genomic network that is going on that has allowed at least up to about 47 countries now in Africa to have the capacity to conduct genomic testing. It wasn't there at the start of this pandemic. At the start of this pandemic, only 7 countries had the capacity to do a pathogen genomic analysis, that is understanding the genetic sequences of the virus and making sure that we understand the variant there. I can go on and on. The Partnership for Vaccine Manufacturing, that is a platform for pushing the vaccine manufacturing agenda, has been developed, has been endorsed by the African Union Executive Council. That is a platform that can be used in future to advance manufacturing, not just of COVID vaccines, but other vaccines on the continent. So I'm really pleased to see the 12 initiatives that have come out of this, the continent, but my greatest wish would be that this initiative be sustained and developed further so that it can be used in managing other diseases, including future pandemics.
All right, thank you, John. We say hello again to James Macharia Chege. He says, you mentioned last time that the Africa CDC has a memorandum of understanding with pharmaceutical firms, Merck and Pfizer, about obtaining supplies of their antiviral pills to treat COVID-19. What is the latest update on this initiative?
Yeah, so I think, let me be very clear, because I saw some of the media reports that said we had already an MOU. I said, we have an MOU that is being developed, and it is with our legal counsel for approval, and everything that we do goes through the legal office for clearance. So that the MOU with Pfizer is there. We are still in discussions with Merck concerning their products. So as I said last time, we have been, because of different travel schedules and other commitments, we have been meaning to meet, but I think I've seen that on my calendar that the leadership of Merck and us will be discussing further. So in some, no deals have been arrived at yet. We are consulting our legal counsel office with an MOU, and we hope that in the next couple of weeks that it should be signed, and then we can go into full partnership with Pfizer.
All right. Another question from Sarah Jerving, who's with DEVEX. Can you elaborate on the logistical challenges in rollout of vaccines and the challenges around surging capacity?
So the challenges of the logistics, I mean, it has to do with several touch points. I mean, let's look at when the vaccines arrive at the airport. Okay, let's just trace that, do a traceability from when the vaccines arrive at the airport to when they get to the arms. And even in the capital city, okay, so the vaccines arrive, you need transportation to get those vaccines to the warehouses. When they, it means it presupposes that you have a warehouse that is well managed and with the right facilities, the right coolers to store those vaccines. It now also supposes that you have vehicles that are equipped to carry those vaccines at the appropriate temperature to the clinics. It now also requires that when the vaccines get to the clinics, you have enough refrigerators and deep freezers to hold those vaccines. Then when you carry the vaccines from the clinics to the last mile, you also need those vaccination, what I call vaccination backpacks or coolers that you could maintain the vaccines. When you go out, you do your day trips to go to remote areas to vaccinate, you have to have those. So that is the whole logistic spectrum for vaccines when they arrive at the airport to when they get to the last mile. So I think that at each point, you can immediately now begin to see where you do a mapping exercise that you need people, okay, across the whole spectrum. You need people at the airport to handle that. You need people at the storage facilities to manage that. You need people to transport those vaccines and manage them properly then. You also need supplies. Okay, you need needles and syringes that will accompany these vaccines. At times, and most of the times, the vaccines comes without those accessories. You have to look for those accessories. So those are if you unpack them, those are the things that are posing a problem for vaccine uptake on the continent.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, colleagues, for your questions. I don't see anyone indicating that they still want to put forward a question. So perhaps let's give now this opportunity to Dr. John to give us a summary of the main highlights as takeaways from today's briefing.
Thank you, Wynne. I think the number one highlight is that over the last week, we've seen an average decrease of about 50% of new cases. I think that is much welcome news. I will only hasten to say that let's not be complacent because we are at the trough of the transmission, and we should be careful that we do not lower our guards and then be complacent, and then the virus surprise us. And if we should take advantage of this, where we are in this pandemic, to increase vaccination, mobilize the community. I mean, and actually, as I've said before, create what I call a social contract, which says that we're all leaders in our own rights. Talk to somebody that you know that has not been vaccinated and urge them to go get their vaccine. It can create a chain reaction so that the vaccines that, as Judy said, are arriving countries and expiring should not be expiring. And we make sure that collectively we aim to get this virus away by ensuring that we get vaccinated as soon as possible and take advantage of the low transmission season. The best way to prepare for the next peak will be to get as many people as possible to be vaccinated now.
Thank you very much. Let me thank you. That was Dr. John Nkengasong, Director of the Africa CDC, for giving this time to talk to us about the status of the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. As usual, let me thank you, colleagues from the media and other communication sectors. Let me thank colleagues from the African Union and from the Africa CDC, and say to all of us, let us meet again next week on Thursday at the same time. For now, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.